Welcome to the Daybreak with Jeff Slakey podcast. I'm so happy you found us. Please subscribe, rate, review, and share this with your circle of influence. It's a collection of the interviews, news, and conversation during Daybreak with Jeff Slakey on I-Fiber1 News Radio, KMAS, weekdays from 6 to 9. Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Thursday here, the 10th of September. Hope you're having a good start to your day. Good morning, Spencer.
Hey, good morning. What's going on today?
Well, today on the show, local news conversation, we're going to have a special sheriff sit-down with Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury and Chief Deputy Ryan Spurling, talking about this past weekend's dueling rallies. Also, Patti, Shelton Fire Marshal and Fire Chief for Central Mason Fire and EMS, on for another special conversation to talk a little bit more about this. The Mason County Community Development Director, acting as Fire Marshal, and in partnership with the Mason County Fire Chiefs Association, determining that current weather conditions within the county, Mason County, have created substantial fire dangers and that there is a need to enact restriction on outdoor burning to all lands regulated by Mason County. Now, this burn ban applies to outdoor burning, including land clearing and yard debris, and this is important, includes a prohibition on recreational fires and charcoal briquette barbecues. So that's a big one. You know, I was talking with Mike about this, and he says people are out doing charcoal briquette barbecues, and then the wind comes up. Oh, yeah. And knocks the thing over. The charcoal briquettes, they go everywhere, causing a fire.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, land protected by DNR may have different restrictions, so check out the websites there for more information. But it is just the whole West Coast, Spencer. My gosh, some of these pictures and video that I'm seeing of South Oregon. I have friends in Salem and Woodburn, and even in even up near Portland. I mean, just the skies are blood orange.
It's unbelievable. I saw pictures of my old hometown of San Francisco, and 9 a.m, it looked like you were on Mars or something. It was so surreal, and nobody using filters or anything like that. It's just actual footage just from their phones of the skies and the bridges in the background, and it really did look like the end of the world. I mean, it was just awful.
I remember a lot.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, I just remember a lot of those old California wildfires and from the 90s, and then that's kind of when I started keying in on that stuff and having friends and relatives down there. It's just amazing to see how much of the coast is on fire right now.
It really is. And even with the Paradise fires and the other fires from last fire season in California, nothing like this. I mean, in all my years, have not seen such orange, weird, apocalyptic skies anywhere. So,
yeah.
Since our last report here on Daybreak, 3 additional Mason County residents have tested positive for COVID-19, bringing the total to 366 positive cases in Mason County.
Well, the Washington State Parks and Rec Commission will be offering 2 free days this month, and one of them is coming up on Sunday. In recognition of Girl Scouts Love State Parks Day. The other one will be on the 26th. So this Sunday, the second time Washington State Parks, the National Association of State Park Directors, and Girl Scouts USA partnering for a fun, family-oriented weekend. 2 days of entertaining and educational program will precede the free day on Sunday. So tomorrow is a virtual astronomy hour from the Goldendale Observatory. You can do a Facebook Live here and talk and listen to people. It's kind of a cool thing there. And that is open to the public. And then there is on Saturday a virtual camping and outdoor skills workshop that is only available, though, to Girl Scouts who register. But pretty cool. And then that culminates on Sunday with a free state park day. So get out and get active there. I did see that it's going to continue to be warm here up through the weekend.
Yeah, and then cooling down.
And I know
luckily.
you've got quick, and I know you've got the forecast coming up soon on that one.
Yeah, one more hot day today, then drops down like 12 degrees by Friday, by tomorrow, and then guess what? Next week, low 70s, and even some upper 60s. When was the last time we had upper 60s? So we'll have that full.
Well, in the middle of the day, for sure.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. We'll have that weather forecast for you throughout the morning. Salmon in the Columbia River Basin have been feeling the heat along with the rest of us. Experts say, though, it's pushing fish species to the brink of extinction. And Eric Tegedoff has more.
Salmon in the Columbia River Basin have been feeling the heat, and experts say it's pushing fish species to the brink of extinction. Brett Vanderhoovel, head of Columbia Riverkeeper, says temperatures in the Columbia this summer have been above 68 degrees, a critical threshold for cold water salmon that can lead to massive die-offs.
If we had a spill of oil that killed 90% of a salmon run, people would be up in arms, but it's happening silently because hot water is flying under the radar.
Vanderhoovel says the dams in the basin are the main cause of warmer water. The Washington State Department of Ecology has notified federal managers that the dams are in violation of water quality standards for temperature. Jay Julius is a commercial fisherman and member of the Lummi Nation. He says high water temperatures have devastated salmon runs in the past. The fish are an important nutrition source for Northwest tribes as well, and Julius notes they have deep meaning for Lummi Nation members.
We've been farmers of the rivers and farmers of the sea since, for us, the beginning of time, and that's really who we are, and it's our identity. Culture's fish, and fish is culture.
Julius says the rivers weren't created to be turned into lakes from the dams. He believes it's important to listen to the people indigenous to this region.
It doesn't take rocket science to figure out the solutions to fix the wrongs that we've done and that we've witnessed. I think we all need to come together and just use common sense.
Vanderhoovel adds the hot water is an urgent situation, especially on the Snake River.
Snake River sockeye are hanging on for dear life right now, and dam removal of the 4 lower Snake River dams is necessary to save that species from extinction.
But an Army Corps of Engineers environmental impact statement released this summer doesn't recommend removing 4 dams on the lower Snake River to help endangered fish species. For Washington News Service, I'm Eric Tegedoff.
Well, thanks, Eric, for that report. You can find out more on iFiber1newsradio.com. Reminder, the Shelton Mason County Chamber of Commerce accepting nominations for their annual awards. It goes through the 30th at 5 p.m., masonchamber.com. 5 categories again this year: business, rookie, boss, citizen, and community supporter of the year. If you know somebody who's done good this year, nominate them and give them a little bit of give them a little pub. That's kind of a cool thing there. And then again, tomorrow is the 9/11 anniversary. Talk a little bit about that with Mike Patti today. And tomorrow we'll have from Fire District 4, Bob Burbridge on, talk about a couple things, and we'll ask him about that. But on the 11th, tomorrow, we want to make sure folks are remembering 9/11. And Wreaths Across America is one way to do this. The Freeport Flag Ladies have been doing this for a while, trying to do a national flag waving at 4 distinct times that have points in history: 846, 903, 937, and 1003, which are marked by events on 9/11. So if you have a flag and you have that opportunity at those times, stand outside, wave your flag for 1 minute. Again, Spencer, today on the show, we've got Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury, Chief Deputy Ryan Spurling, and the Shelton Fire Marshal Mike Patti, also the Fire Chief for Central Mason Fire and EMS. That, more conversation, check in on sports, and more. It's all coming up here on Daybreak. Good morning.
From the iFiber1 News Radio studios, you're listening to Daybreak.
Well, once again, good morning, everybody, here on the Daybreak Show. Spencer and Jeff are talking now with the Shelton Fire Marshal in another Focus on Shelton presented by our great friends at our Community Credit Union. Mike Patti, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you this morning?
I am well, and it has been a wild weather week. The fires have gotten completely out of control all along the West Coast, from California to Washington. We're seeing some fires in our state and in our local area, and that has led to new restrictions. We saw it for the city of Shelton, and this morning as well, now adding to that the whole of Mason County. Tell us again about these.
Well, earlier this week when the wind and low humidity event, what we call red flag warnings, came into play on Monday, we started seeing grass fires and brush fires like we hadn't seen before here in Mason County. And we had a couple events. Initially, here a couple weeks ago, if I can back up, we put burn restrictions in place that restricted all outdoor burnings with the exceptions of charcoal and gas barbecues. We had a couple structure fires here locally that were started with charcoal barbecues, where the barbecues themselves were tipped over by the wind, and the charcoal briquettes lit grass on fire, which in turn caught the buildings on fire because everything is so dry. So after some consideration, I talked to some regional fire chiefs and petitioned our local and city officials to request that we further restrict charcoal barbecues, at least until this red flag warning is passed. Hopefully we can get through this, and hopefully tomorrow, Friday morning, we can look at it with the better weather, at least better fire weather, and we can look at it to at least allow the charcoal barbecues to come back. But for the last week and right now, charcoal barbecues are just as dangerous as any outdoor burning.
Man, it sure sounds like it. Did this just come out of nowhere? I know you and I have talked over the years about how these types of inclement weather events show up. Everything is so tinder dry. We have very low humidity. The heat is now here for this week. Did you guys see this a few weeks ago, that this may be a potential right now, or is this kind of did this kind of spring up?
Well, I think probably the meteorologists saw it coming probably maybe a couple of weeks ago, maybe even farther out. We were advised about it late last week that we were probably going to have this kind of weather show up. So, excuse me, we were kind of preparing for it late last week. We staffed up for it. We staff up normally for the holiday weekend anyway.
Oh, yeah.
But when we were told that we were going to have a red flag warning event, we staffed up even further. We were staffed up for a couple of our brush rigs and engines to allow for additional engines on the road.
So when you're looking at other fires across the state or regionally where fire agencies from Mason County have gone to help before, do you kind of look at the travel distance on being able to allow the firefighters to go somewhere to help, knowing that they may be called back to help their home area?
Well, we don't look so much at travel distance as we do as at the number of resources we allow out of the area.
Okay.
We've got a strike team that was sent over to the Yakima area last week, and they were demobilized. They were released from that scene on Sunday and were immediately reassigned to another fire in eastern Washington, and that's where they're working now. And then yesterday, when the fire broke out in Thursday County, there was an immediate need for structural protection, and we're already tapped out wildfire-wise because we still have to protect our,
Sure.
We have areas to protect here at home, but we said, look, we can send you a couple rigs, and that's it. And then they went down there, they took care of the immediate problem, and got right back home.
Wow.
But we can send out a few pieces of apparatus and staff at a time, but we still have our homeland to take care of.
When shifting gears just a little bit, actually, before we move on to another subject, the rest of the week into next week looks similar, or are we going to see some breaks in the weather?
Well, it sounds like, just listening to the weather forecast coming in, it sounds like what Spencer was saying. It's going to cool down tomorrow a few degrees, even like 12 degrees. And then I was hearing rumors that we might even have some rain in the forecast first of next week. So anything will help. Obviously, any rain that we get first of next week isn't going to be enough to do anything for the burn ban, but hopefully it'll keep the dust down and give us a little bit of moisture in the ground, but certainly not enough to raise or to lift any burn bans.
So please, folks, be out there and just be cautious with what you're doing. Even like you mentioned, those charcoal barbecues, the wind picks up and that can really cause some issues there. The other note I would like to just ask you about Friday tomorrow is the 19th anniversary of 9/11.
Yes, sir.
What does that mean to you still today, and what are some ways that people, I mean, right now, you would have new recruits that weren't even born when that happened, right? Entering the fire service at 18?
Right. It's, excuse me, for those of us who are still working in the fire service when that happened, it still hits a raw nerve. We think about it every day, and we have to educate our new folks to come in about what happened that day.
Yeah.
And we hear the younger folks talk about, ultimate sacrifice and giving their all. I mean, it's big talk. They talk big, but if you look back in New York City on September 11th, that's exactly what those people did. Is they walked into a building and went up a whole bunch of flights of stairs and never came down.
Yeah.
And those guys probably knew they weren't coming back. So it hits home.
Yeah, it's just another reminder that there are folks like yourself all throughout fire service, law enforcement that put their lives on the line to help protect others. So a big weekend of remembrance. And just thinking back to that, 19 years ago when that happened. Central Mason Fire EMS, also the Shelton Fire Marshal Mike Patti is on right now for our special focus on Shelton, presented by our Community Credit Union. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Jeff. You guys have a great weekend.
You too.
From the iFiber One News Radio Studios, you're listening to Daybreak.
Well, good morning, everybody. Jeff Slakey and Spencer Hughes here on the Daybreak Show. On the phone line for a special Sheriff sit-down, Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury, Chief Deputy Ryan Spurling. Good morning, guys.
Morning. Good morning.
Just kind of take this time, I talked with Shelton Police Chief Darren Moody, and we were kind of going over the two rallies in Shelton that were last weekend. I had held back on any sort of reporting on this until I could make sure I talked to both of you guys, both entities, to kind of understand what was going on. So now that I've talked to Chief Moody, get the Sheriff's Department in here, overall, what can you tell me about the rallies on Sunday? It seemed like there was a lot of folks in support of law enforcement.
Well, the first thing, Jeff, that I think needs to be recognized is Shelton Police Department. Chief Moody and his staff just did an outstanding job of planning and pre-planning and organizing for that event so that it was safe for everyone, making sure that the different agencies were informed and included, as well as the dispatch center, all the emergency service folks. They just did a great job of handling this event.
When I talked to Chief Moody and I was asking about the lead agencies and things like that, talk to me a little bit about how that determination gets made.
Well, of course, the rally, or whatever you want to call it, was scheduled to be in the city of Shelton, which, for the most part, it falls under the jurisdiction of the city organization, and so they took the lead role in that and included everybody in the planning process. I think one of the nicest things that has come up a number of times is that between the agencies that were involved, or among the agencies involved, it was done very smoothly. It didn't really matter who was in charge. It just got taken care of. But I still would say that the chief's lieutenants for the chief just did an outstanding job of organizing in the command center as well as out on the street, so that we all had something to follow, a model to follow for the day, which really helped us.
Now, do you guys gather before the event or early in the day? You have a meeting not unsimilar to the meetings that you guys have been having about coronavirus, where you will kind of set a game plan and whether or not if more than this amount of people shows up, then this happens, or something like that?
Absolutely. This is Ryan Spurling. We had briefings. Chief Moody's Lieutenant Kostad had done all of the incident command briefing note paperwork, the same thing that we use for the incident command for area command for COVID. And it's a national system that we're all trained in. ICS training is what it's called. And they use it for the fires. They use it for lots of different things. And they use those same forms. We had a couple different briefings and then one major briefing. And at that briefing, we had just such great community turnout. We had the prosecutor that was there. Commissioner Sharon Trask was there. We had DEM Ross McDowell there. We had Mike Evans of MACECOM. We had the State Patrol. We had the Sheriff's Office. We had the City Police. We had Fish and Wildlife, and then we had Central Mason Fire Chief Patti there. So everybody was involved. And again, there was no egos. It was about our community's safety and protecting the rights of both groups. So it came together very well, and is super proud of the community.
Is this one of the bigger rallies, if you count everybody that's together from all the groups, one of the bigger ones that you've seen in Shelton or Mason County?
Yes, it was much bigger than our North Mason or the previous one we had in Shelton, mainly because of the Back the Blue group was probably pushing 400 or 500.
Yeah. Chief Moody said no arrests were made. Is that the same with the Sheriff's Department? And when I asked that question, I guess I would have assumed that it would have been an overall yes or no, but maybe it wasn't.
I actually came down later that night, closer to midnight, and went back down and checked with some of the businesses as well. We didn't have any arrests related to that event. As far as I know, no property damage. And I would tell you that I think that, both sides had their opposing opinions, but I thought what was good about it is some people they were able to express their First Amendment rights. Other people expressed their Second Amendment rights. And I think that in the process, for the most part, most people were very respectful, and we didn't have the issues that we have seen in other parts of the country.
Well, a good testament, again, like you mentioned, to all the law enforcement that worked hard together to make sure that both groups were able to express their constitutional rights of gathering and speaking, as well as the right to bear arms. And good to know, too, that at the end of the day, even late into the evening, not a lot of activity. And I watched a fair amount of the videos that were posted, and there were a lot of rumors that were swirling around, different things that I don't even want to repeat here to give it any sort of air time. But that's a real tough part of law enforcement and policing now, the social media, the rumors, and how quickly all that can spread, right? Yeah,
dispelling some of those can be a bit challenging. I also want to really appreciate, from our perspective, the citizen support and our local businesses that, we had some requests for them and some guidelines and some thoughts about safety issues between us and the city. And they just did a really nice job, and what nice support we had coming out of the community. And I think it was an overall, for our entire community perspective, to have this thing take place the way it did and be over with the way it was a tribute to everybody in the community.
Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury, Chief Deputy Ryan Spurling here for a special edition of the Sheriff Sit Down presented by our great friends at our Community Credit Union. Thank you, guys, and good to know that all seemed well over the weekend with the rallies in Shelton. Good to talk with you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for listening to today's Daybreak with Jeff Slakey podcast. Again, I'm so happy and honored you found us and chose to listen. Please subscribe, rate, review, and share this with your circle of influence. It's a collection of some of the interviews, news, and conversation during Daybreak with Jeff Slakey on I-Fiber One News Radio KMAS, weekdays from 6 to 9. Thank you so much again, and talk with you next time.